I had psychic dreams when pregnant with my first child. I have two. They were really creepy. I never had them before or since, which makes it even stranger. There were three. One, I dreamt I was in a coworker's house, and I told her about it the next morning, saying it was 2 stories, and we had to exit the top to get the bottom story. Yeah, turns out it was true. It was like a duplex, and I had no idea. She was pretty creeped. Then I dreamt my best friend was going to be pregnant on her wedding day, but not showing. Turned out true as well. The scariest was when I dreamt about a friend I hadn't talked to in years. She moved away. I texted her asking if her house was haunted. No joke. I was able to describe her entire house that I'd never seen, and I dreamed about how it was haunted and gave her details. She was freaking out. She told me it was haunted. Only 3 psychic dreams, never before or after being pregnant with my 10-year-old. My youngest, 7, didn't give me any psychic dreams, same father and everything. It makes me wonder if my eldest is psychic. I have no explanation. But doesn't it seem coincidental that I would know these things that I have no way of knowing and be able to explain in perfect detail? It was certainly unnerving.
One time, I was hanging out in my kitchen in our previous house a couple years back, and nothing really happened that was out of the ordinary at first. But then, I decided to randomly glance over at our basket that's kept on a high shelf. And that's when the weirdness began. I'm not even kidding when I say that I saw one of the bags in the basket being tossed towards and in front of me. I tried to find a logical reason for why this happened, but I can't find any that isn't paranormal related. It's not like it was knocked over or anything either, because I would just chalk it up to me being clumsy if that was the case. It fell in a way that it looked like someone else was picking it up and tossing it towards my direction. Not to mention, I was watching this bag being thrown. So I know for a fact that I didn't bump into it, nor was the bag on the edge of the basket. It was securely put into the basket, so you would have to manually grab it and toss it in order for it to fall out like that. Needless to say, me and my cat were speechless. After that, and I stood there for a good few minutes, looking at the bag in front of me, wondering what just happened. I always still wonder if that was a spirit trying to make their presence known.
10 years ago, I went to an old still functioning and people living there style ghost town called Oatman in Arizona. When I visited, I went on a little tour and found out about the town's main ghost named Oti. I talked to him that day and let him know I knew he was there. I could feel his presence there. And in one of the photos we got back, I could have swore I saw his face behind me on the stairs of the motel. I shrugged it off for about a decade. So 10 years later, I visit the place again. I went up to the old motel room where he hangs out. I said, "Hey, what's up, Oti? I brought my husband and kids to come meet you this time. Let me know if you're still here, bud." At that exact moment, a CD player started randomly playing Take the Money and Run by Steve Miller Band. What a kind and nice way he was letting me know he saw me there. And also it was a nice way to introduce him to my kids because of the way he playfully and not scarily said hello. My husband works in audiovisual and said it was absolutely paranormal. No explanation for how the CD turned on out of nowhere. I can't wait to visit my ghost friend Odie again soon.
There have been tons of things happen in this house that can't be explained, but probably the scariest was this one. I got this house when my great-uncle died. There were a lot of things happening that made me think of him like my daughter's satellite thing kept changing to 50s music, which was his favorite. He loved to cook and cabinets in the kitchen would open and close. A glass flew out of a closed cabinet and smashed loudly. Lots of weird things. My dog sleeps in the doorway to our bedroom, even when we were out in the living room, and I found out that's where he was found. My other dog was pointing at that the other day. But the weirdest was there was a time period, when my son was about 3 to 4 or so, and he kept getting out of bed at night. He kept telling his mom that he woke up to talk to the metal man. She didn't think much of it, but told me this one day after he had said it a handful of times. She didn't know it, but my great-uncle had both legs amputated and he had metal legs when he died. Freaked me the hell out, but we've gotten used to weird stuff happening every once in a while.
I never really believed in paranormal stuff, but I did have an experience once where I know for a fact it couldn't have been anything else. My wife and I moved into a trailer together when we first got together. It always had a feeling of uneasiness, and at night I had to keep every light in the trailer on, or I'd just feel super uneasy. One night, not sure of the time since we were sleeping, I woke up to a noise, but at first I wasn't sure what it was. Then I heard the most evil laugh I've ever heard in my life. and some kids started crying. We lived alone, obviously, but the laugh was almost so cliché it was hard to believe it was real. I woke my wife up as it continued for a few minutes, and she confirmed that I wasn't insane. Another night, we heard a chainsaw crank up right outside our window. We did live out in the sticks, around a lot of rednecks, so it could have been a prank. But after the first incident, I didn't know what to think. Fast forward a few months. I was sitting in the living room with my wife and a couple of her family members when I saw a shadow sitting beside my mother-in-law. Come to find out, a guy had OD'd in the house, and apparently other people had seen him before.
The music in a shared house kept turning itself off. It was a friendly house share, so we were blaming each other and not thinking much about it. But it kept happening, and we all thought it was someone in the house buggering around. Until one Christmas we were all sat in at the dining table having our Christmas meal, and listening to Christmas music as a background, and one lad tried to restart the CD, thinking it had naturally finished. But the CD wouldn't start until we traced the lead back to the wall where both plugs had been turned off at the wall. They had been on earlier as the music had been playing and the hostess trolley was still warm. 2 plugs, 2 switches that needed a manual press, both now off, cutting the CD player. We all sat there and knew it was, none of us, as we had been in each other's sight the whole time of the meal, and no one had got up. At that meal we all started talking about the times the music kept getting turned off, and how we each thought it was a joke by the others. But now we knew it wasn't. Finally, during a house party in front of about 20 guests, we were playing music, and one of the speakers detached itself from the wall, and flew across the room to bang loudly into the opposite wall and cut the music. We literally had to explain to the stunned guests that our friend doesn't like music and keeps turning things off. It was an old terrace house. Nothing else odd happened. It was all centered around the music from what we could tell.